When I married Angela, I truly believed I was closing the painful chapter of loneliness that had consumed me after my first wife's passing. Angela was warm, graceful, and full of life. She breathed comfort and laughter back into a home that had felt empty for far too long. But what I hadn't anticipated was the emotional turbulence that arrived with her 21-year-old daughter, Madison. At first, Madison appeared polite, but somewhat distant. I didn't take it to heart. After all, I was a stranger entering her world. It couldn't have been easy for her to see her mother with someone new. And I kept telling myself that with time, she would come around. I couldn't have been more mistaken. The tension began subtly. An eye roll here, a small sarcastic comment there. Then came the remarks wrapped in humor, each one cutting a little deeper than the last. "You're not really a dad figure. Don't worry," she'd say with a smirk. Her tone light, but her message sharp enough to sting. I bit my tongue every time. I didn't want to create friction or make Angela feel caught in the middle. She always pleaded for us to try to get along, and I genuinely wanted to. But things eventually reached a breaking point during our first family dinner together. My parents, younger brother, and a few of Angela's close friends had gathered around the long wooden table that night. The atmosphere was cheerful, filled with stories and laughter, at least until Madison decided to shatter the mood. I had just finished telling a funny story about how I once burned pancakes during our honeymoon. Everyone laughed, even Angela. Then Madison leaned back in her chair and said loudly, "Guess the pancakes weren't the only thing burned out." The room went completely still. My brother stared down at his plate. My mother's eyebrows shot up, and the laughter dissolved into an uncomfortable silence. I froze, unsure how to react without making things worse. Angela's face flushed with anger as she shot Madison a warning look, but her daughter only shrugged and muttered, "Just kidding," before focusing on her phone. That night, after everyone had left, I tried to brush it off, but the weight of her words lingered long after the laughter had faded. The sting stayed. I had worked tirelessly to build this new family, and that single moment had carved a wound deep into my pride. I couldn't just let it go anymore. When Madison returned home the next evening, I asked if we could talk. "Look," I began cautiously, trying to keep my voice steady. "What happened at dinner wasn't okay. You embarrassed me in front of my family. I've tried to be patient with you, but this time you crossed a line." She didn't even blink. "You're overreacting," she said flatly. "I was just joking. Maybe if you had a sense of humor, people would actually like you." Something inside me broke. Not with anger, but with disappointment so heavy it almost hurt to breathe. "Madison," I said quietly, "respect isn't optional. You don't have to like me, but you can't keep treating me this way." She rolled her eyes and muttered, "Respect is earned, not demanded." Angela walked in, just as my voice rose slightly. "What's going on?" she asked, glancing between us. I explained what had happened, hoping she would finally stand by me. But instead, she let out a long, weary sigh. "Maybe you both just need some space," she said softly. "Madison's still adjusting." "Angela," I said, fighting to stay calm, "your daughter humiliated me in front of my entire family, and now you're telling me to just forget it." "She's my daughter," Angela said firmly, her tone leaving no room for argument. "You're the adult here. Be the bigger person." That sentence shattered something in me. I had been the bigger person. For months, I had swallowed the hurt, ignored the jabs, and kept trying to build peace. But that night, I realized no matter how kind or patient I was, Madison would always see me as an intruder, not family. Days passed in uneasy silence. Madison ignored me completely, and Angela avoided conflict by pretending everything was fine. The quiet in our home became suffocating, louder than any argument could have been. Then one weekend, my parents invited us over for lunch again. I didn't want to go, but Angela insisted. "Let's try again." she said softly. For me. At lunch, everything seemed calm at first. Polite smiles, small talk, laughter over food. Then my mother turned to Madison and asked gently about her college plans. Madison smiled sweetly and said, "Oh, I don't know yet. Maybe I'll just find someone rich like Mom did." The words struck like a blade, sharp and cold. The air around the table froze. Every sound, every smile, vanished in an instant. Angela's face went pale, her lips parting as if to speak, but nothing came out at first. Finally, she turned to her daughter and said quietly, "Madison, that's enough." Madison let out a shaky laugh. "Relax, Mom. Just teasing." But everyone knew it wasn't a joke anymore. It was open disrespect. I excused myself from the table and stepped outside, my hands trembling. The hurt that flooded through me wasn't just from Madison's words. It came from Angela's silence. She could have stopped it sooner, but she didn't. No matter how cruel Madison became, Angela always found a way to defend her. That night, I knew I couldn't stay quiet any longer. When we were finally alone, I turned to Angela and said softly, "I love you, but this can't go on. Your daughter doesn't just dislike me. She despises me. And your silence. It makes it worse." Angela's eyes softened with regret. "I know, Jason," she whispered, her voice trembling. "She's been angry ever since her father left us. You remind her of him." I thought I was protecting her, but maybe I've only made things worse. It was the first time she'd ever truly admitted it. Tears shimmered in her eyes as she added, "I'll talk to her seriously this time. No more excuses." The next morning, I overheard them talking in the kitchen. Their voices were low, but I caught fragments of their words. Madison's tone was fragile, shaking slightly. "Mom, I don't want to lose you like I lost Dad. When you married Jason, it felt like you forgot about me." Angela's voice cracked, full of pain and love. "Honey, I didn't replace your father, and Jason isn't trying to replace him. Or you. But you can't punish him for loving me." For the first time, I understood the truth behind Madison's cruelty. It wasn't hatred. It was fear. Fear of being left behind again. That evening, there was a soft knock on my study door. Madison's voice came through, uncertain. "Can I come in?" I nodded. She stepped inside and sat across from me, her usual defiance gone, replaced with something raw and honest. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I shouldn't have said those things. I was being cruel for no reason," she finished softly, her eyes glistening with guilt. For a moment, I couldn't find the words. I had imagined this conversation countless times, but I never truly believed it would happen. Finally, I managed to say, "Thank you. I know this hasn't been easy for you. It hasn't been easy for me either, but we can try again." From that day on, something shifted between us. It wasn't a sudden transformation. It was slow, fragile, but real. We started small, morning coffee together, brief chats about her classes, celebrating little victories. Each moment stitched a bit of warmth back into the house that had felt cold for too long. Angela watched us quietly, a soft smile on her face, her eyes shining with relief every time laughter replaced silence. Months later, during another family gathering, Madison stood up at dinner, her hands trembling slightly. "I owe someone here an apology," she began, glancing toward me. "Jason, you didn't deserve how I treated you. I was angry, but you never gave up on trying to understand me. Thank you." For a heartbeat, the room was still. Then a wave of gentle applause filled the space. My chest tightened with emotion as I looked at Angela. She was smiling, this time with pride instead of pain. It wasn't a perfect ending, but it was real. Madison and I could never erase the past, but we had finally started to build something more powerful than resentment, respect. And in that moment, I realized something simple yet profound. Family isn't about blood or flawless harmony. It's about choosing forgiveness, especially when it's the hardest thing to give.